The Americans with Disabilities Act, created in 1989, has helped to make life more enjoyable for my family and my father. The Americans with Disabilities Act took 2 years to become law, with multiple drafts produced and several aggressive pushes for it by activists. The draft was first introduced in Congress in 1988. Justin Dark, chair of Congressional Task Force on Rights and Empowerment of People with Disabilities, held multiple public hearings in the states across America, giving thousands of people a chance to voice the injustices that society posed on people who live with disabilities. A new version of the bill was introduced in 1989. When the movement stalled, a coalition of disability groups formed to prove to Congress that the bill was necessary to give equal protection to citizens with disabilities. Congress met again and passed the ADA. Almost 25 years ago, Presidents George H.W. Bush signed the bill on July 26, 1990.
I was first diagnosed with MS in May of 1996.
I think when my husband was first diagnosed with MS, I said, this isn't happening to me or us. You know, those are the kind of things that happen to other people. And it's quite a shock, and you can become very fixated on that. And you wonder what's the course of the disease, because it's not necessarily prescribed what's going to happen. Some people get worse, some people don't. And so it's always, I wonder what's going to happen.
MS is a inflammatory autoimmune disease that affects the brain and spinal cord. It's a condition where the body, the immune system actually attacks normal brain tissue, and it's actually the sheath around nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord.
My difficulty with MS is walking. I can get around without a cane, but I should probably use one more than I do. I have weakness on my left side, which causes problems with things like buttoning shirts, tying shoes, things like that. But the main problem that I have is with my walking, and I can no longer run or sprint, and I'll be lucky if I could walk like maybe a mile or two is probably as far as I can go.
The ADA states in Section 12112 discrimination that no covered entity shall discriminate against a qualified individual on the basis of disability in regard to job application procedures, the hiring, advancement, or discharge of employees, employee compensation, job training, and other terms, conditions, and privileges of employment. This law allows people with a disability to have equal opportunities in the workplace.
So the Americans with Disabilities Act, I think one of the most important parts of that is discrimination in the workplace. Because I remember when my husband was diagnosed, wondering, should we even tell anyone about it? And actually, ADA sets up protection for people in the workplace and offers accommodations. And I think that's important because people want to work. It's good for society. It's good for the individual. So, I'm quite happy that that regulation was passed, and I think it is important for our society.
The ADA states in Section 12132 discrimination that, subject to the provisions of this subchapter, no qualified individual with a disability shall, by reason of such disability, be excluded from participation in or be denied the benefits of services, programs, or activities of a public entity, or be subjected to discrimination by any such entity. This prohibits public places from discriminating against a person with disability, for example, the lack of ramps or not wide enough walkways.
Regulated walkways make me feel safer, less anxious, more comfortable. I can walk quicker. And then, the other item with a regulated walkway is I know that no matter where I go, as long as I'm on that regulated walkway, I can always find my way back. It's not going to be like I'm going to be stuck looking at something that's very difficult to negotiate like whether it's a very steep flight of stairs or something that requires more balance than I'm really prepared to give.
I think, when people are handicapped, they feel different. And you want to make them feel like they can fit in. And being able to participate in activities and workplace is really important for them. So one of the benefits of the ADA Act has been accessible walkways into various buildings and attractions. And you don't really notice that much in the US. I think we take it for granted. But we travel overseas a lot, and in Indonesia or Asian countries, I mean, it's really difficult for people with disabilities. And, I'm fortunate my husband can still walk, but those that are in a wheelchair, I don't know how they'd even go to those places. So I think that's been a huge benefit for the US to enact that legislation.